Over the last years, I've been able to travel to some of the coolest mountains throughout the United States, and even most recently Canada. At the point of filming this video, I've been to 26 official ski resorts. I thought that you, the audience, might appreciate a ranking video of all the resorts that I could give my word on, to see which ones are most suitable towards you. This is completely my opinion, so don't take anything to heart. These are just my takes, and some of them a little controversial, but I think I put together a pretty good list for you guys. This ranking is primarily focused on terrain, snow, atmosphere, and dabbling a little bit in facilities and lodging, because those are also important factors when considering where you're going to go skiing. But I think the most important things, at least for more advanced skiers, is the terrain that you have available at these resorts and the type of snow, what type of snow they get, the quality of it, and how much they typically get over the season. So my review is basically going to be more advanced skier oriented. I'm sure beginners or intermediates will find some value in this review too. Anyways, let's get on with the list. I'm going to throw every ski resort that I've ever been to up on the screen right now in order of when I've been there. So first ski resort obviously I've ever been to is Hunter Mountain. That's my home mountain. My first mountain I've ever been to out west was Snowbird, Utah. And the last mountain I was at was Sugarbush, Vermont. So yeah, we have a lot of mountains that are going to be on this list, 26. So I think we're gonna have a pretty cool ranking between the East Coast and the West, a little bit of West Coast too. So it'll be pretty random, but these are all the resorts I've been to. I can't speak for other ones. Hopefully I'm able to, well, definitely gonna rank up the list soon, add a lot more resorts to it, and we'll get some pretty cool resort rankings in the future. But for right now, that's what we're working with, and I think there's a good amount to work with anyways, so yeah. The only mountain I'm going to be excluding from this list is Silverton, Colorado, just because it's not an official ski resort. I went heli skiing back in 2023 at Silverton in Colorado, and it was a really incredible place, probably one of my favorite places I've ever been. The town was incredible, but that's not an official ski resort. And there's one lift technically, but nobody's really going there for their resort experience. So Silverton's not gonna be on this list, but I do think it's an incredible place. Kicking off the list is gonna be Okemo, Vermont. Now I had one of the best days ever at this mountain. We scored at least 30 inches of snow in one day. So I had probably the best possible day ever that you could have at Okemo. I just think it's a very easy mountain. There's not really a lot of terrain, like in general. The tree skiing there was pretty limited. We found this one little fun zone, but overall it's a pretty mellow mountain. And it's really fun groomers, and the snow piled up really good while we were there. But I wouldn't just find myself going back there. I just think it's a pretty mellow mountain. There's not really that much to offer, but I think for beginner skiers, it is a pretty incredible place. So Okemo is more of an intermediate place to me, for sure. I think for everybody can agree on that. But it can be really, really fun. This was hard to do, but number 25, my home mountain, Hunter Mountain, New York. Look, I love Hunter. I'm gonna ski here for the rest of my life, and some seasons more than others, but I just think Hunter has it has like, you know, I have my biases with it. Some really good, some really bad. But I think realistically, Hunter fits at number 25. It's a northern New York mountain. It's barely even north. It's like mid-New York, if in the Catskills. So, you know, the snowfall can be pretty dicey there. Usually most of the snowfall hits Vermont. It can be pretty hard to get a good powder day there. I have gotten some incredible ones there, but most of the time when it does snow there, the snow is very heavy. And when it is blower snow, it's typically only like 5 inches, somewhere around there. It's not really a reliable ski resort, but it has great resiliency. We used to have the best snowmaking in the world, and I'll make a whole video about that because there's so much about Hunter Mountain I could talk about in one video. But for the sake of this ranking, I'm going to keep it pretty limited. This has been my home mountain since I was 4 years old. I've gone up here every single weekend, and without Hunter, I don't even know if I would be the skier I am today. I don't know if I would be skiing as often as I do. I don't even know if I would have found it in the first place. So I'm very grateful for it, but realistically, Hunter just doesn't have that type of terrain that you would go searching for. It doesn't really have the tree skiing. It doesn't really have that advance of terrain. You can find some challenge there, but for the most part, as I do think the terrain is a little better than Okemo, the snow quality is probably not as good. Number 24 is Stowe. This is the first ski resort in Vermont I've ever been to. I think Stowe does have a lot to offer for the East Coast. Granted, it's an East Coast ski resort, so you're gonna get that ice, and I especially know when we were there that there were some very icy days, and the groomers can just get pretty dicey, and then if there's a lot of people, it could get pretty crowded on the trails, but that's typical for every ski resort, especially on the East Coast. But I think when it comes to snowfall, Stowe is in one of the best places on the East Coast. It just gets a ton of snow sometimes. I think they got a ton of snow like this October, which was incredible. Typically, those mountains in Vermont are a lot more reliable when it comes to snowfall. Granted, we do have those East Coast conditions, so anything can happen. But I think Stowe is probably in the best spot for the East Coast. And I think it does have some really cool terrain to offer. I wasn't really able to experience much of it, but I would like to go back there and see what we could get ourselves into. The town is also really nice, and we got some pretty cool lodging down the road. So pretty cool vibe. It's a very quiet area. At least when we were there, but I'm not really sure. The town seemed like it could get pretty lively, so yeah, Stowe, Vermont is definitely worth checking out if you're on the East Coast. Number 23, Sugarbush, Vermont, just a little south of Stowe. Not gonna lie, I absolutely love Sugarbush. It is an East Coast ski resort, so you got that ice and you got those same things I talked about with Stowe, but I don't know if it's just the day that we had there, but we were granted with like 20 plus inches of snow in April when we were there, which was just incredible. It was actually 2 weeks after our crazy Okemo powder day, and it was such an unexpected day, but I think Sugarbush actually has a lot to offer when it comes to terrain. For the East Coast, you kind of get the most that you can get with it. It has some chutes at the top of the mountain, and it has some really long mogul runs, like double diamond mogul runs that will get the sweat rolling down your back, that's for sure. And you'll definitely need some good working out before you go there, because there's some good cardio involved with it. We stayed about 2 minutes away from Sugarbush at this really nice hotel. There's a bagel shop on the way up to the mountains, so that's pretty convenient. It's like a little deli. I just think overall Sugarbush is a really fun experience, and it's my favorite ski resort on the East Coast at the moment. All right, heading out west for this one, number 22, Purgatory, Colorado. I think Purgatory is a really fun resort. The only reason it's ranked pretty low on this list is because there's just not that much terrain there. The backside of the mountain is really fun, but overall it's a pretty mellow resort for the most part. The views there are absolutely incredible, and it's actually a 30-minute drive from Silverton, Colorado, where you could get some of the best heli skiing in the world. So you could do a really fun trip there. But overall, I wouldn't really recommend flying there. That's actually what we did, but we only hit it for a day on a big road trip. I think Purgatory is a really fun mountain though, but for the most part, it's pretty mellow. But the tree skiing there can be fun, I assume. On the backside, it looked pretty nice, and we got some pretty cool runs, but overall, pretty mellow resort for Colorado. Number 21, Stevens Pass in Washington. Stevens Pass is a frustrating mountain for me because I feel like the views there are so incredible and everything is just great, but I just feel like there's not that much skiing there, at least when we were there. So I know the Mill Valley is this whole section there, but that was completely closed when we were there. There was no night skiing going on when we were there. We were there in April, so that honestly explains it. But yeah, off the Seventh Heavens Share, there is these really cool chutes that you can do. So maybe I take back, like there's not that much terrain there, but overall for Washington or for the West, I think it's a pretty small mountain. Also, my Stevens Pass videos are the ones that get the meanest comments, so I don't know why. People in Washington don't like me, I guess. I definitely want to go back to Stevens Pass. We actually stayed in Leavenworth, which was such a fun experience. It's like this German Bavarian style town. I forget what it was, but it was such a cool vibe. The food there was amazing, and the drive to and from the mountain was just incredible. It was along the river, and it was just like one of the coolest trips I've ever done. It was near the end of April in 2022, and I just had such a blast going there. There's a lot of fun skiing there. Got ourselves into some pretty intense stuff, but overall I think number 21 is a good spot for it. All right, number 20, Breckenridge, Colorado. Breck is a really cool mountain. I actually really enjoyed it. The problem with this mountain to me, well, one, getting around it is a pain in the ass. But two, I don't know what it is, but like I feel like a lot of mountains have these distinct chutes or something to them, and Breck does have the 5 peaks that looks really cool from the town and everything, but I feel like when you're on the mountain, I'm not sure if I haven't been to the right zones there. I just felt like it was a pretty average mountain. There's a lot of cool terrain there. There's a lot of extreme terrain, especially a lot of chutes up at the top. But I just felt like overall, it just felt like a pretty average ski resort. I don't want to say average because every ski resort's amazing and I think you should go to every one. but it just felt like compared to the other ones, it didn't have as much to offer. It didn't feel as special. I do think the town is awesome though. There's pretty cool bagel shops and stuff. I was there in April too, so we didn't get the best conditions, but overall I do think that Breckenridge does get a good amount of snow. I'm not really sure how much they get a season, but I just felt like compared to other Colorado resorts, I would see myself going to other ones first before I went to Breckenridge. There is a lot of lifts though, and there's plenty to do. And it's a really cool trip to do with friends. So I would recommend that on its own. I just wouldn't find myself going there first. All right, number 19, Alyeska in Alaska. I actually wanted to put this one way higher, but I was thinking about it, and realistically, it's a really fun mountain, but there's just not that much skiing there. I feel like 60% of the Double Diamonds are closed like all of the time. There's trails on the mountain that haven't opened since like 2010, maybe even earlier than that. And I just think like, what's the point? I know the avalanche danger is insane out there. We've actually met somebody who was caught in an avalanche on the resort there. But it's just like overall, there's not really like, when it comes to Double Diamond skiing, you would think that they would have like a ton of it, but the ones that are open are barely open throughout the season. The visibility is also terrible up in the bowl side if you get a whiteout. But I do think Alyeska offers some of the best views in the world. And Double Diamond terrain, when it opens, is pretty incredible. But also the snow conditions are pretty rough out there. The snow can get really wet, and it's that Pacific sort of like snowfall, except you're really far up there. Now I know the backcountry skiing and heli skiing in Alaska can be awesome, but you're just not gonna get that dry snow like you would find in the Rockies. I do recommend if you go there though, stay at Hotel Alyeska. They got like 5 restaurants in this one hotel. It's ski in, ski out. Pretty sure they also have a helipad there. So you could do a really cool 1-week trip to Alyeska where you ski there for like 6 days and then do a day of heli skiing or something. And that's a pretty perfect trip to do. It's just like, I feel like it's kind of a hassle getting up there. The snow can be rough and there's really not that much terrain because I feel like 70%, 60%, whatever it is of the Double Diamonds are closed basically all the time. All right, number 18, Solitude, Utah. So I don't really have a good amount of experience here, so I'm kind of going off of the statistics. I know they get some of the best snow in the world. This is Utah, the Cottonwoods. Of course, the snow is going to be incredible. And I know the terrain there is awesome. I just feel like it's an awkward mountain. There's a ton of lifts that you have to take to lap a zone, and then the zones can have this weird fall line to them. So you got to find the right place to go to when you're at Solitude. I also had a bad experience with some employees there, so that really kind of just set the tone. I was having leg issues the day I was there, and I also had problems with my boots. So 3 problems in one day. Only had 1 day there, and visibility was bad too. But I still had an okay day. But overall, I think Solitude is a really cool mountain. And I'm not gonna let this bad experience kind of judge the mountain for me. I need to experience it again. But overall, I would say like when it comes to the terrain and stuff, Solitude does have a ton to offer. If you get a powder day there, it'll probably be one of the best powder days of your life. It's Utah snow, you really can't beat it. When it comes to lodging, I'm not really sure how much they have on the mountain there, but another cool thing is with Brighton down the road, you could ski at Solitude during the day and then hit Brighton at night. So there's a really cool fun trip you can do there. Getting to Solitude is probably easier than the other Cottonwood resorts. I think their parking situation is pretty stupid there, so just be aware of that. But besides that, I think Solitude is really fun and you should probably go there. All right, number 17, Taos Ski Valley in New Mexico. I think Taos is awesome. You get some incredible views there and it's a really remote ski resort. I've never been to a ski resort that felt like that quiet. When we were at the base of the mountain, I felt like there was nothing going on, which is a cool thing about the mountain, but also a bummer because like when you want to get dinner or something at the place, you have to kind of just go into town, which is a drive down the road, which it actually reminded me of Little Cottonwood Canyon in Utah. The drive, it goes through this valley and it actually looks really similar because there's like a lot of red rock and stuff. And there's a lot of, it has this cool valley and it's very far out of the way. Like getting down to Taos is just, we went from Telluride to Taos and it was a 6-hour drive. There's like no other ski resorts in that area. I mean, I think there's some, but they're pretty small. I think Taos gets some of the best snow that you can ask for. It probably gets the driest snow that I could think of. I mean, Utah does get the best snow, but I feel like when it comes to New Mexico powder, like that, it's pretty far up there. I mean, New Mexico is a pretty dry place, I imagine. So The snow there when you get powder day, it most likely is going to be really good. My only gripe with this mountain is that you have to hike to like basically 90% of the advanced terrain. When we were there, the summit lift wasn't open and it was in mid-February. I'm not sure if it was on wind hold, but it didn't even look like it's been open for the entire season. So that was kind of weird to me. The majority of the chairlifts are slow. So lapping terrain is kind of an issue there for me. I did these really cool runs on the Highline Ridge there. I did about 2 of them. And we did this cool bowl called Juarez. And I thought the terrain there was awesome. Like the terrain is sick, but it just takes so much time to get to everything, which I don't really like when ski resorts, like you pay, you know, you have the lift ticket and whatever, and you go hit the mountain, but then like you have to like work to get to all this stuff that you want to. I don't know, it's kind of frustrating to me. I think that is what makes Taos special in its own way though. You have to work to get to cool terrain. It makes the terrain worth getting to, it makes the snow quality better. So I'm not complaining about that, but I do wish there was a little more lift service terrain. I know the Summit Chair, like when it runs, I'm sure that's amazing, but I just felt like lappability there is really tough. All right, number 16, Powder Mountain in Utah. Unfortunately, the ownership of this mountain is kind of plummeting this year. They're trying to ruin the place, making it more expensive, more commercialized, something to take into consideration right now. But I think Powder Mountain, from my first time experiencing it, was such a vibe. They limit the amount of lift tickets sold each day, so the snow is always fresh there. You can always find fresh pockets of snow. I just think the terrain there, for the most part, if you go to the Paradise Ridge, you could find some really cool terrain, some pretty steep stuff. So I think the terrain there is cool. It's not the most challenging in Utah, but I think it does offer a lot. When we first went there, we got like $60 lift tickets for the day, and the last time we went there was about 180. So it was pretty ridiculous how much it went up. I hated the fact that we paid that much for a lift ticket. Not sure if we're gonna go back there next season now, because like I feel like they're just trying to get the most money out of us as possible, and it's pretty sad to see. But they do have a lot of resort investments coming. There's a really slow chair called the Paradise Chair. I swear it took like 20 minutes to get up. But they're replacing that with a high-speed quad, and I think they're putting a chairlift up Lightning Ridge. So there's gonna be some really cool accessible stuff there. I just feel like for the lift ticket price, like I don't understand if it's even like, I don't even know if it's worth going to that much anymore. They're also limiting the amount of terrain that's skiable in certain spots, but then adding more in other spots. They overclaim how much ski acres they have, which is a little weird to me. I also heard something about them limiting February weekend skiing, so I'm not sure. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. I would be aware of it, but I do think it is a mountain that if you could get the good price to go there, it is totally worth it because it's such a vibe. And our first time skiing there was in this whiteout blizzard, and it's a day I'll never forget. So it's always gonna have a special place in my heart, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it's going in the greatest direction. Maybe terrain-wise it is, but like from a vibe standpoint, it's seen better days. All right, number 15, Snowbasin in Utah. This is actually right next to Powder Mountain. I think Snowbasin's awesome. I think it has some of the sickest views in the world. I don't really have many problems with Snowbasin at all. I think it's a pretty awesome mountain. There's a lot of sick terrain there. It doesn't have the most amount of double diamond skiing, so maybe not the most advanced place, but if you know where to look, you could find some really cool stuff. The snow quality there is great. It is a lower elevation than the other resorts in Utah, so it's about the same as Powder Mountain, but I think like if you find the zones there, you can have an amazing day. And the views there, if you go there on a bluebird day, dude, you're gonna have the best day ever because the views there are just incredible. The mountain itself is awesome. The surrounding views are pretty flat. I don't wanna say flat, but more like rolly hills, but the mountain itself is like so jagged and like so distinct looking. It's pretty incredible. Snowbasin's a place I would totally recommend going to, and oh my God, the bathrooms there are beautiful. They have like golden toilets, I swear, it's incredible. You could also get some really good food there. So overall, I recommend Snowbasin. I think it's incredible. It's kind of one of those places that it just has everything. Besides the lodging at the bottom, but I think it's pretty easy getting there anyways. All right, number 14, Deer Valley in Utah. I did one day at Deer Valley and I loved it. Now, Deer Valley is known for being a pretty intermediate-esque place. I think a lot of beginners and intermediates go there, and I think they have a great time. There's a lot of groomer skiing there, but if you go to the Dally Chutes, the Empire Bowl, all that stuff, you could find some really cool stuff. I haven't even been to the Mayflower side or anything. I know they're doing a big expansion soon, but the Dally chutes were pretty gnarly. So I think Deer Valley does have a lot to offer for experts. And I know if you get a powder day there, there's just so many opportunities to do stuff. So the tree skiing there is also incredible. I think Deer Valley was just like such a fun place. It is very bougie, albeit, but I think like you could still have an amazing time there. If you have the Icon Pass, it's totally worth hitting up. All right, Deer Valley's neighbor resort, number 13, we have Park City, Utah. I think Park City kind of gets overlooked a lot. It has a ton of amazing terrain. It's the biggest ski resort in the US. I think there's so much skiing you could do there, especially if the Jupiter chair is open. There's just so much going on up there. I've never really had like a good day at Park City though. I had one really good day there, but I'm hesitant to even say really good because it was just like this whiteout day where we only skied one chairlift, which was Staines, which is like, you know, a pretty mellow chairlift for the most part. I really want to get like a proper day at Park City where I'm skiing good and I'm able to see some more of the views and stuff and just have a great day. The snow quality there is amazing. It's Utah, so you know you're gonna get that amazing snow. But I think it has a lot of terrain to offer for every ability level, so it's a perfect place for families. And it's also a very lively place. I feel like everybody goes there, but there's good reasons for it. I think Park City is pretty awesome. All right, this one's definitely gonna get me some hate, but number 12, Big Sky, Montana. Look, I think Big Sky as a mountain is incredible. Unfortunately, like I just didn't really have like a memorable experience here. I think Big Sky is very bougie. I think any chance they can get money from you, they take it. There's an extra charge to ride the tram to the top. We went to this restaurant on the mountain and it like required reservations and stuff. I'm like, is this really like the skiing experience? It feels so bougie. I want to like, you know, get like a little bite to eat or something, not like, you know, pay like $1 million for this fancy meal that I'm gonna have on a mountain that I'm like have to pay reservations for, or not pay reservations for, but make reservations for and then show up at a certain time. It feels like a day out in the city, not on the mountain. Like we're here to ski, and it was just really frustrating to me. But overall, I think the skiing there did look really sick. We were there on like the worst snowfall year ever, so I don't really have like a great experience at Big Sky. I'm gonna go back there and hopefully we have a great time. But I just think like the vibe there is kind of killer, like, and not in a good way. I just felt like it just didn't feel humble. Now I met a lot of really cool people there. Like the vibe of the people that we met there was awesome. I think everybody that we met at the time we were there, at least, were really chill. But like, I just think the vibe of the mountain and the people who run it is pretty lame. Number 11, now I don't know what people are gonna think of this one, but number 11 is Brighton in Utah. Look, Brighton I think is the complete opposite of Big Sky. I think the vibe there is immaculate. The lift tickets aren't as expensive, but you can use the Icon Pass there anyways. But I just feel like every time I'm at Brighton, everybody's having such a good time. Everybody's so friendly. I always go there when it's dumping snow, and I've always had the best days of my life there, so I'm trying to like play out the bias. I'm trying to like keep out the biasness there. I just think overall Brighton is like one of the most fun places in the world. It doesn't have the most crazy terrain, but it has honestly like the best tree skiing to me. So like a powder day at Brighton, if you're a good tree skier, you're gonna have the best day out of anybody on planet Earth. So I think Brighton deserves a spot. Honestly, dude, if I could, I would put it in the top 5, but like from a realistic standpoint, I think the mountain itself isn't the gnarliest. I think like they could have more to offer. Or I just don't think they have as much terrain diversity to offer. But the vibe there is honestly what makes the mountains so special to me. All right, we're in the top 10 now. So honestly, all these mountains are just incredible. Look, every mountain has little issues, but like overall, every place on this list is awesome. And I think like if you get the chance, you should check out every single one. But the top 10 is honestly like the ones I would recommend. Now I would throw Brighton in there too, but yeah, I think the top 10, like you really cannot go wrong when booking a trip to these places. But kicking off the top 10, number 10, Revelstoke in British Columbia. Revelstoke's pretty special to me. I got to meet Lucas Catania and his family there and ski with them, but like overall Revelstoke as a mountain I think is insane. There is just some incredible terrain there that you could just spend so many days like exploring and finding these like almost like backcountry zones. The snow there is incredible. Now granted, when we were there we had the worst conditions ever, but last year was a pretty weird season, I think we can all agree on. My only problem with Revelstoke is I feel like it could be a bit awkward to get around. It's certainly like hard to find your way around there. The navigation is not the easiest. We did like this 45-minute run down to North Bowl, and it was just like, I every turn I was like, where are we going? How am I gonna find my way out of this place? So Revelstoke is a pretty like serious place. You definitely have to take it seriously. But I think like for expert skiers, this is one of the best places to go to. It's just like, it's an awkward mountain, and that's what kind of keeps it lower for me. But like, I do think it is such a special experience. I didn't see any of the views when we were there the 3 days. It was socked in all 3 of those days. So I'm not really sure what it looks like up there, but I've seen pictures of it and the views are just incredible. So I know it has some of the best backcountry skiing too. There's some really good lodging around Revelstoke. Best burgers I've ever had on the mountain too. So I would recommend it just for that reason. But Revelstoke number 10 I think is pretty fitting. All right, number 9, Crested Butte. This is one of the most special mountains on this list to me. I feel like Crested Butte was the mountain that was able to push me to that next level, make me comfortable in double diamond terrain out west. I've had lessons with instructors that I would never forget out there. Some incredible powder days and some of the scariest, most terrifying skiing I've ever done. If you think Revelstoke is hard to get around, don't even try going to Crested Butte, because I have no clue where we were going half of the time. You need a guide to get around that place, which is like, what I would say is my only gripe with it is the fact that it can be a very hard mountain to get around. I guess also like the snow conditions can be pretty rough there. Even though the snow quality is really good, they don't get that much snow, so there's a ton of rocks and like twigs and stuff. So it's a really gnarly mountain. You definitely, like, if you have to take Revelstoke seriously, you really have to take Crested Butte seriously. There is a lot of gnarly terrain there. Also, the traversing there is absolutely terrifying. So Crested Butte, I love going there. I've been there 3 times. I absolutely love the place. I think the town is like incredible too. I think the town is such a vibe. It's just a hard mountain to get around. It's a hard mountain to experience. So having that extra money to set aside for like guides and stuff, I think is worth it. Or you could just be adventurous and see where you end up. All right, number 8, I only had 1 day here, but it was at Grand Targhee in Wyoming. I could just tell from the terrain here that this place is incredible, especially on powder days. Going through the tree skiing here, if you didn't tell, I love tree skiing. I think that's why I love Brighton so much. That's why Brighton's so much higher for me than I feel like a lot of other people. But Grand Targhee kind of felt like Brighton on steroids. It felt like a bigger version of it. I know Grand Targhee gets some of the best snow. With Utah being number 1, I feel like Grand Targhee would be number 2. Grand Targhee also is benefited by the fact of being right next to Jackson Hole. Well, it's not right next to Jackson Hole. You actually have to do an hour drive around the range. But you could get a cool view of the Tetons from the mountain. Now, when we were there, I swear it was the foggiest day I've ever experienced, and the snow conditions were actually pretty terrible. But I just could tell, like, the mountain itself, if you get those right days, it could be pretty incredible. So damn, I'm really thinking about how many shitty condition days we had last year. Targhee is a mountain I cannot wait to go back to. I think I should be back there in March. And I just hope that we were able to hit on a powder day and I'm really able to experience it to its potential, or to its full potential. Speaking of Jackson Hole, number 7, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Jackson Hole is one of those special ski resorts, I think, to everybody. Jackson has some of the gnarliest terrain that you could think of. I always have a tough time when I'm there. I feel like it's such a scary mountain. There's plenty of amazing things to say about Jackson. It has an amazing town, amazing lodging, amazing food, amazing terrain, and amazing snowfall. The only problem with Jackson, which is like what keeps it out of the top 5 for me, is one thing. When there's periods without snowfall, the sun really bakes the snow, making it very sticky and hard to ski. I think it's totally worth going to anyways. Like, even if you get that conditions, like, I think it's still worth going to because it's such an insane experience. All right, number 6, we're heading to Alta in Utah. Taking into consideration the snowfall, the terrain, the vibe, the atmosphere, the views, all of it, I feel like Alta is the perfect package. Getting up there can be a nightmare, but there's some really cool lodging. Granted, the lodging on the mountain at Alta is pretty expensive, and at Snowbird it's less expensive, but still, like, you know, it's up there. I just feel like Alta is one of those perfect mountains, and I really did not do it justice when I was there. I was skiing very weak, so I can't wait to go back there and experience it to the fullest. I know I've said that about like almost every resort on this list, but I mean, I'm gonna go back there and hit it hard. But I think Alta is one of those places that, like, it's really just like top tier skiing. It's like 10 out of 10. There's not really like anything bad about it that I could think of. I mean, maybe besides like the fact that it's just a little awkward getting around the mountain, but honestly, I don't even think it's that bad. I guess the real issue is just getting there, but once you're there, you're gonna have the best day of your life. All right, damn, I don't even know how those resorts didn't even make it to the top 5, but like this top 5 is just incredible. All right, kicking off the top 5, Telluride, Colorado. I think Telluride is one of the most amazing ski resorts in the world. It has the most breathtaking views that you could think of. It has incredible terrain. I mean, the Gold Hill chutes are just, I skied Gold Hill Chute 8 and it was like one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. It also has Palmyra Peak. It has the senior chute at the top, it has a dihedral chute. There's so much terrain at Telluride and there's so much expert-oriented stuff. The views there are incredible. It has amazing snowfall. It doesn't get as much snow as other places, but it still gets a lot of snow. And when we were there for the first time, we got so much, I swear we got like between 4 to 10 inches every single day. It was incredible. Like, and that's a week I'll never forget. My first time in Telluride, that full week was just, it was at the end of March too, and it was just like, it was just a time I would never forget. I had to think quite a bit about this one, but number 4 is gonna be Lake Louise in Alberta. I think Lake Louise is like a perfect ski resort. They have perfect groomers, they have perfect beginner intermediate trails, they have awesome black diamonds, they have an incredible terrain park, so many park features. But I think my favorite thing about Lake Louise was the backside. There's also the West Bowl area that I thought like looked really cool. It was just the snow conditions sucked when we were there. But the Alphabet Goalies had some really good snow in them, and they were some of the gnarliest terrain that I've skied all season. Probably the steepest stuff I skied all season. So that's a zone I cannot wait to hit again. This mountain also has the most insane views you'll ever see. The backside has these sharp, jagged peaks. The front side has these sharp, jagged peaks. This is like in the Banff area, so the views, the mountains there are just some of the most insane you'll ever see. And then I also recommend going down to Lake Louise itself. We did this C Gully to D Gully and then some chutes off the Paradise Chair. So Lake Louise, like as an expert ski resort, is incredible. There's so much to offer and it's all right off the chairlift, so it's easily lappable. There's also this really nice hotel across the street. Well, I don't want to say across the street, more like 5 minutes away from Lake Louise. There's some good food there. I had the best breakfast buffet ever at this hotel, the Lake Louise Inn. I totally recommend staying there. So I think Lake Louise is totally that like perfect place going to. And I think number 4 is like, I really, honestly, I almost put it as number 1, but there's just 3 ski resorts that really stood out to me that I just could not put any lower. All right, kicking off this top 3, number 3 is gonna be Fernie in British Columbia. I feel like Fernie just has some of the most incredible terrain. Now, granted, I feel like it maybe isn't as perfect as a ski resort as Lake Louise, but what kind of put it, like what kind of elevated it for me was, one, the snowfall is better. They get more snow typically, probably better snow quality, I would assume as well. But the terrain there, I just felt like that high alpine terrain was just like next level. I just felt like there was so much chutes. The Polar Peak there is incredible. The views of the head wall on a Bluebird day are incredible, but if you get those powder days like that storm skiing, Fernie is just as incredible, if not even better. The town of Fernie is also awesome. I think Fernie, what maybe elevates it for me as well is the vibe there. It had that very local vibe to it. Reminded me of Telluride a lot. The storm skiing days felt very similar. The tree skiing there is some of the best you'll ever experience, and I know I have so much to cover at Fernie. Another resort I can't wait to get back to. And that's probably one of my most anticipated resorts for next season. All right, top 2. So I think these ski resorts are absolutely amazing. My 2 favorite ski resorts, for like advanced skiing, I feel like this place is really like, these 2 places are some of the best experiences you could possibly have. Number 2 is gonna be Kicking Horse in British Columbia. This is the best terrain you're ever gonna find at a ski resort. I'm just gonna put that out there. I've looked at ski resorts all throughout Europe. I've watched videos. I've been to a lot of ski resorts in the US and Canada at this point. I've looked at ski resorts all around the world, and comparing them to Kicking Horse, I just feel like Kicking Horse has the best out of all of them. Kicking Horse has some of the gnarliest chutes that you can imagine. And what's so amazing about it is there's 5 peaks there that you could ski. They have like the Ozone, they have Redemption Ridge, they have CPR Ridge, they have Terminator 1 Ridge, they have Terminator 2 Ridge. And most of this terrain is literally right off the gondola. The gondola goes from the top, bottom of the mountain to the top. And then there's also a chairlift that you could do Redemption Ridge for. So there's not a lot of lifts, but the lifts that are there perfectly service expert skiers. Now, if you're a beginner, you're gonna have the worst day ever when you go to Kicking Horse. You're gonna have the worst trip ever if you go there. I do not recommend that because there's only like 2 greens on the entire mountain. and there's just one little slow chairlift for that. This is a mountain for the experts. If you go there, you really want to experience it to the fullest. You want to train before you go there. You want to know what you're getting yourself into. Now, the problem with when we were in Kicking Horse was the conditions were terrible. I mean, like, these were the worst conditions I've honestly ever skied out west. So a lot of this terrain was unskiable, so I really didn't get to experience it to the fullest. But I can just tell from looking at the terrain that it is a really special place. And next time that we go there, I'm really praying that it's good snow. I hope we don't get the same thing again, but I really want to experience all this terrain and scare the shit out of myself, basically. This mountain also has like insane views. The backside of this mountain is just like some of the sickest views you could ever find. All right, number one, dude, I've been talking for so long. I'm exhausted, but number one, we're finally there. I think this is the best ski resort that I've been to. It's my favorite because I just feel like it has the whole package. But number one, Snowbird, Utah. Snowbird has incredible snowfall. I think they average over 500 inches a year. They have insane terrain. They have a tram. They have a bunch of high-speed quads. Incredible views. Mount Superior is just incredible to look at, especially from right in front. The only reason Snowbird is honestly above Alta is because I feel like Snowbird is just an easier mountain to navigate. Snowbird has a Cirque Traverse. It has all this stuff. Now, I don't think the terrain is as gnarly as Kicking Horse, but that's not to say that the terrain isn't gnarly there. Snowbird, honestly, it reminds me a lot of Telluride as well. It has that incredible terrain. Also has that, like, it has a similar look to the valley and everything. The views are incredible. But Snowbird gets the best snow. It has incredible lodging at the bottom. It has these, like, it just feels hardcore as well. The problem with, like, I'm gonna use Telluride as an example, is even though the town is really cool, the mountain village feels like very touristy setup. Coffee shops open at 8 o'clock and then like they close around 4. You're gonna be on the mountain that entire time. But Snowbird has these delis that open really early in the morning, close late at night, or at least close later in the afternoon. It has a lot of restaurants that are available. At least the first time we went there. I'm not sure it has as many now, but I feel like it has the whole package. The only problem with Snowbird is getting up there. It can be a nightmare. One day we were waiting for like 5 hours in line and we only skied like 3 hours. We got up at like 4 a.m. and ended up started skiing at 1 p.m. So it can be really tough, especially when you get those big snowstorms. But if you hit it right, you're gonna love it. There's really not much else to say about it other than like the terrain there is just incredible. The food is great. And it's just, I think like it really deserves that number one spot. So number one, Snowbird. I hope you guys enjoyed that list. I am exhausted. It's like 2 a.m. right now and I'm filming this, but I just really want to get it done. So hope you guys benefited from this list. I hope nobody took it too seriously, but you know, I hope maybe help you plan your trip or whatever. So I'm done rubbing my eyes. I am gonna go jump in bed, but yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. I'm so excited for the ski season coming up. We're gonna do so much fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, peace out.